Good afternoon and welcome to Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Lagos. I'm Chimeze Obi-Iwagu. Nigeria's Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee begins meetings today. Algeria's Taiwan Touring gas plant ready to come fully back online for the first time since a deadly militant attack in 2013. And Libya's hopes to boost crude exports have been dealt a blow after a deal between the government and local guards to reopen key ports. And then we'll begin with the Monetary Policy Committee meeting here, well, of course, where the Central Bank of Nigeria is meeting today and tomorrow in Abuja to decide on a new monetary policy direction in the face of a dwindling economy. Headline inflation has increased by more than 2 percentage points to 16.5% year-on-year in June, and the core measure of 16.2%. Analysts at FBN Quest believe the committee might hike to restore a positive policy rate in real terms and allow for inflation expectations. The resulting increase of more than 5 percentage points, according to them, will be unprecedented. The analysts say alternatively it might opt for a token increase to show its inflation-fighting credentials, but there are, again, the committee would need to explain the magnitude of the hike. And leaders from the world's biggest economies on Sunday renewed their commitments to support global growth and better coordinate actions in the face of uncertainty over Britain's decision to leave the European Union and growing protectionism. The meeting of finance ministers and central bankers from the group of 20 major economies in China's southwest city of Chengdu is the first of its kind since last month's Brexit vote. The issue under discussion include risks and challenges for the global economy, the preferred direction for structural reforms, and the promotion of global trade. In the meantime, Chinese finance minister says landmark achievements have been made in the structural reforms of the group of 20 economies.
The G20 member countries have located the highest common divisor in terms of the important fields and principles of the reforms and identified the priorities and guiding principles of the reforms. This will help G20 member countries to collectively promote and enforce structural reforms and to maximize the positive spillover effects of the reforms. This will help us objectively measure the overall economic and social effects of the reforms in each country. The assessment will also visualize the progress and direction of the reforms in G20 member countries and act as a guidance for the next phase of reforms.
Meanwhile, new UK Chancellor Philip Hammond has begun discussions with China on an ambitious free trade deal which could see greater access for major Chinese banks and businesses to the UK economy. Chinese state media reported earlier in the month that the Chinese Ministry of Commerce wants to do a UK free trade deal. Mr. Hammond now revealed that Britain is also keen. It will be the first time the UK has embarked on such a major project with the second largest economy in the world and will raise concerns about cheap manufactured goods entering the UK more easily. In Asia, shares in Nintendo have fallen sharply after the Japanese gaming giant Nintendo said Pokemon Go's success would have a limited impact on its profit. Nintendo shares dropped by 17.7% after more than doubled in value since the game's launch on 6th of July. Overall, Japanese shares were little moved, with a Nikkei 225 finishing flat at 16,620.29. In China, Hong Kong's Hang Seng fell slightly by 0.07%, while the Shanghai Composite traded flat most of the day and closed at 2,019.81 points. In South Korea, the benchmark Kospi was also flat, closing at 2,012.32. Australia's ASX 200 rose by 0.6%. And Germany was put on edge after an unprecedented series of 4 attacks in the last week left many dead and wounded, placing pressure on German Chancellor Angela Merkel's government to stem the violence. The latest incident occurred last Sunday, late on Sunday, at a music festival in the Bavarian town of Ansbach. When a 27-year-old man identified as a Syrian refugee blew himself up near the entrance of the event, injuring 12 others. Let's now cross over to Frankfurt Stock Exchange to see how things are playing out there now. DWTV Channel's TV financial correspondent Christoph Kober joins me now. Good afternoon, Christoph. It's good to have you on board. Well, how is the market waking up to the late Sunday night attack at a music festival in the Bavarian town in Germany?
Well, people are naturally concerned and they are worried about this wave of violent attacks that Germany has seen just this week, just last week. There have been 4 violent attacks, and that is a situation that the country of Germany is not used to. This is not common. These sort of outbursts of violence are not common in Germany. So this is something that is quite worrying. People on the trading floor here that I talked to showed their concern, showed their sympathy with the families of the victims. As in terms of trading, the attacks did not really influence on how the DAX started this week. Investors here are relieved that the business sentiment among German company leaders did not turn as sour as they had anticipated after the Brexit vote. The confidence among German business leaders is down, yes, but not as far as investors had feared. So that gives German shares a boost. The DAX is up by about 1%, and also the euro is gaining slightly against the US dollar.
Right, Christoph, looking behind you there, I can see the DAX actually trading flat. Now let's look at the earnings. Of course, it continues to roll in this week. Which are the ones we should be expecting this week? I know that Ryanair has already warned of profit downgrade as Brexit halts growth. On the other hand, we saw Japanese gaming giant Nintendo say its Pokemon Go's success would have a limited impact on its profits. Talk us through this.
That's right. We have quite a menu here this week on large corporations reporting. We have energy giant BP reporting tomorrow. There's fast food company McDonald's, machine makery, Caterpillar, chemicals heavyweight DuPont, as well as the messaging service Twitter. So we can expect earnings reports from them, as well as from tech giant Apple, which will report tomorrow after the closing bell in New York. And investors will keep a close eye on those results, mainly asking how did the China business develop in the last quarter? Did it stabilize or did it cool off further? Because during the first quarter, revenues in China had surprisingly slumped, leading to declining overall global revenues for Apple for the first time in 13 years. Now, that is also due to stiff competition by competitors, mainly cheaper competitors than Apple. So that will be a company that investors will keep a close eye on. But it's not only corporate news that are shaping the markets and moving the markets this week. It's also the central banks. The U.S. Federal Reserve is meeting this week discussing further rate hikes, and the Bank of Japan is also talking monetary policy. So that's quite a lot on the plate here for investors this week.
Sure, we'll keep a close eye on those meetings. But let's look at Yahoo. The long-awaited takeover by telecom giant Verizon seems finally to be happening. How are investors reacting to this?
There is some relief that this long-awaited deal is finally coming to a close, and we see shares of Verizon gaining about 1%. Yahoo shares are up more than 4%, even though Yahoo will cease to exist as an independent company. Nevertheless, investors feel that this deal is making sense. Verizon wants to integrate its advertising technology that it had prior required with AOL with the internet services of Yahoo, and basically form a company that can live up to giants such as Google and Apple. And investors feel that, yes, this is a viable way to go. If we look at Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer, someone who started her job 4 years ago with a lot of expectations, high expectations, according to media reports, she will cease to have an important role once this deal is done. So Marissa Mayer will most likely leave Yahoo, but will be compensated with about $50 million for leaving the company now.
All right, Christoph. All right, Christoph. That's the most we can take on that, Christoph. That's Christoph Kober, DWTV Channels TV correspondent, reporting there from Frankfurt Stock Exchange. We'll take a quick break. The program continues in a moment.